Hello and welcome to IB Times TV. I'm Marisa Christian. Today I'm joined by IB Times reporter Christopher Zara to talk about a court case making headlines that involves a New York photographer, a telephoto lens, and his neighbor's apartment windows. Now, before we get into the details of the case, talk to me a little bit about Arne Svenson's exhibit, The Neighbors, and why it's caused so much controversy.
Sure. So he's a photographer who lives down in Tribeca, and what he did was he strapped a telephoto lens onto his camera and took pictures of his neighbors who live across the street in the Zinc building. The Zinc building is basically a luxury condo that has, like glass ceiling to floor glass windows, so it's pretty easy to see the neighbors if you live there. And he took photos of them without their consent and pretty much without their knowledge, and they all ended up in his exhibit, including in some cases children who were also living in the apartments.
How did his neighbors become aware that they were even a part of this exhibit?
Well, I think most of them weren't even aware that it was going on until they read about it in the newspaper. And, of course, a lot of them were very angry about it, especially because they were he was using some of the kids. Now, he was very careful in these pictures not to show faces, although a couple of them are really iffy, where there's like maybe a half of a face that's sort of obscured. But for the most part, you don't see faces. You just see people sort of doing everyday things. Once two of the neighbors found out that their children, very young children, were in the exhibit, they filed a complaint to try to seek a preliminary injunction to stop him from selling the photographs and from continuing to show them.
What are some of the larger legal issues that have been addressed in this case?
So obviously the privacy issue is the biggest thing. It's pretty well established that when you're out in public you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So for example, if you're walking down the street on the sidewalk and I take your picture and use it in an art exhibit, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. In this case it's sort of a murky area because they were in their apartments, although they were exposed because of the glass, obviously. But there's really not a lot of precedence in this area, so it's still sort of murky as to whether or not he violated their privacy.
Some were surprised to find that a New York City judge ruled in favor of the photographer. What did the judge have to say about siding with Svenson?
A lot of it had to do with what the photographs are. Clearly the judge believed that they were art and that he has a First Amendment right as an artist to show them. I think if his neighbors ended up on a billboard for Verizon or some sort of advertisement, it would have been a different situation. But what you have here is civil rights laws are very limited in their reach when they butt up against the First Amendment, because we have a right to speak, especially in an artistic manner, even if we're making money. He was saying something about privacy, about intimacy, and about the nature of what we do when we're alone, and all those things he has a right to do under the First Amendment.
Christopher, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.